It is Thursday, November 13th at 5:30 p.m. I'm calling the Governing Board special meeting to order. We are at the Jerry Rovey District Facility. We have 5 board members present: Board Member Todd, Member Kenyon, Member Zimmerman, Vice President Cirincione, and myself, Sarah Schmidt. First order of business is 1.2, the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Cirincione, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.3, approval of special meeting agenda.
I make a motion to approve the special agenda form consistent with Board Policy 1-302 and temporarily suspend governing board policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, we can take a vote. Member Todd,
Yes.
Member Kenyon,
Aye.
Member Zimmerman,
Aye.
Vice President Cirincione.
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. We'll show that passed 5-0. All right, we can move on to item 2.1, approval of consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull 2.2.
All right, 2.2, anyone want to pull 2.3? Are we good? Okay, so pulling 2.2. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 2.2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We can take a vote. Board Member Todd,
Aye.
Member Kenyon,
Aye.
Member Zimmerman,
Aye.
Vice President Cirincione.
Aye.
I am also an aye. We will show that passed 5-0. Board Member Todd, if you would like to go for 2.2.
I just have a couple questions on 2.2. Is this going to be it's a stipend essentially for services rendered up until today? Are we coming back and doing this again in the future? Or does this take us through the year? And then also, if we're going through the year, what's going to be the next amount asked for? Also, has this amount that was offered, which I think we saw in the last somewhere we saw, has this already been offered to the employee? Or I'd like to know a little history and background of it. Basically what I'm asking is the amount that's being proposed. Has that already been promised to the employee? Where did we come up with that number ahead of time?
Dr. Avila, are you able to answer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board. The number that was presented came from a recommendation from HR. I met with HR back in September to help determine an hourly rate similar to the action, the personnel list that you see on each of your agenda items. There's an hourly rate. So to answer your first question, is this going to continue? Well, just like we pay all of the other teachers who do extra work, if extra work is completed, we'll go through the approval process. It'll be submitted for HR for payment. And to answer the second question, the hourly rate came from HR, who assisted me in calculating, which just for the record, the employee's hourly rate is $57.89. So it was in collaboration with Human Resources, and we're following the same process that we do with all other teachers who work above and beyond and complete additional duties.
Okay, was the employee told that they would get this money ahead of time, or is this an after fact? Did we tell the employee, pick this up and we'll get you a pay raise, or how did that work exactly in this particular case?
So as you said, it's essentially a stipend for the additional duties. As a reminder, I had presented to the board our plan to the plan for coverage for our school psychologists as we started the year with 6 vacancies. So was there a specific promise for money? No. Was there a promise for a specific amount? No. But as we told all other teachers and staff, if, there's compensation if you do the additional duties. In this sense, this just looks different because instead of writing an IEP, it's writing an evaluation report.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Avila, if I may, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So just to be clear, I know that for other services that there's certain other stipends like for writing the IEPs
Yes.
that she would be getting, but that time wouldn't be included in this time, correct? This is just for what you said.
That's correct. And to clarify, a school psychologist doesn't write IEPs, so that's why this was just, this is something different because the work is different. It's not IEP writing. This is the report writing and the evaluation, doing the actual testing of all the kids and the diagnosing, if you will.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Avila?
Madam President, just this compensation rate, first of all, let me be very clear. I'm not opposed to paying employees who are doing extra work. I'm just trying to make sure that we do this properly. This compensation amount is consistent with every other employee that gets compensation for extra work, correct? Or a stipend. So like an assistant superintendent or assistant principal or anybody else that steps up to the next level, this is all the same percentage or factors are included in this one?
I'm unclear on how HR calculates everything. That's out of my area on how they compensate or calculate the rates. I can give you an example. What I do know, for example, for an IEP, it's $100 per hour.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we provide the same stipend to all of our employees. The same calculations are done. That's my only concern. And it doesn't sound like we have an answer tonight from staff if we've used the same, how they came up with this number.
Dr. Avila, you said previously that the hourly rate calculated was based off of Ms. Harrison's current hourly rate. Is that correct?
Her hourly rate is $57.89. And when I met with HR and they reviewed the information, did a calculation, and then made the recommendation that $50 an hour would be a fair rate. So that's what was proposed.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Please.
Dr. Avila, so I just want to clarify that you did not propose the hourly rate. It was HR who proposed this hourly rate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve 2.2, approval of additional supplemental compensation.
Second.
Okay, we currently have a motion to approve the additional supplemental compensation for Ms. Harrison and a second.
Excuse
Yes.
me. Would you like the effective immediately added to the tail end of that?
Board Member Zimmerman, you made the motion. Would you like it to read
And the motion?
effective? Would you like to amend to have it say effective immediately?
I mean, yes, I just assume that we're making the motion to approve it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve supplemental compensation for Ms. Harrison effective immediately. Is that how it reads? Okay, do we need a new second since it changed? No, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, we can take a vote. Board Member Todd,
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon,
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman,
Aye.
Vice President Cirincione,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. We will show that passed 5-0. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 3.1, Hazard Young Adia and Associates presentation relating to the permanent superintendent search process. Sylvia Ibarra from Hazard Young Adia and Associates. I believe that you are Sylvia Ibarra.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you would like to start your presentation.
Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, good evening, Governing Board, guests, district leadership. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to share our superintendent search proposal with you this evening. We know how important it is to hire a superintendent, and we would be honored to support you through this critical work. My name is Sylvia Ibarra, and joining with me today is Nola Wellman, and we represent Hazard Young Adia and Associates. And so we'll go ahead and start with introductions. So just a little bit about me. I am a lifelong educator, 35 years in education, all in Texas schools, in Title I schools. I retired in 2004. I did serve in multiple roles while I was in my tenure. I started as a teacher, counselor, principal, director, assistant superintendent, and then finally superintendent. Upon my retirement, I joined HYA as an associate, and primarily I support school districts with superintendent searches. Specifically in Arizona, I was part of the team that conducted the superintendent search in Mesa Public Schools, and currently I'm part of the team working the Chandler Unified School District Superintendent search. It's a little bit about me, and now my colleague.
I'm Nola Wellman, and I likewise have gone the traditional route of teacher and assistant principal, and executive director. I worked 32 years in Colorado as an educator, well, born and raised in Texas, but then moved to Colorado, and 32 years as a career educator there. Then I had the opportunity to return to Texas, where I was a superintendent for almost 11 years in a school district outside of Austin. My size of districts have ranged tremendously from small, under 1,000, to almost 50,000, where I was assistant superintendent. The school district where I was superintendent was about 8,500 students. I would like to point out our two other members of the team. They actually are located in our home office that's in Illinois, Danielle Martell and Christina Mellon. They help us tremendously with all of the back office information. So I'd like to say a little bit about Hazard Young and Adia. We've been in business about 38 years in doing executive searches, primarily in education. You can see all the statistics of how many searches total we've done, how many we have completed in each year. We have a nationwide associate network, and that probably distinguishes us of over 130 associates. We have a national reach, as well as completing searches. The two of us have completed searches in other states, and so we have colleagues that we know because you join different teams, so we know from other states, in order to recruit the best possible candidate for Liberty. We will be walking through our process with you, and the decision that's in front of you is what firm has the best infrastructure to really help you find that perfect candidate for you. Our search is 4 phases. It is engage, recruit, and then to select and transition. Obviously, the engagement part has to do with community and you as a board, finding out what specific needs you have and what kind of characteristics for your next leader are important. Recruiting, that's our primary job where we go out and seek that match of here's this district that has these needs and here's the candidates we think will meet that. The selection process obviously is your part, and we will help you through that. And then we also help you in a transition for that. This is all customizable, and it takes about 3 months to do. In our process of community engagement, we would start with a planning meeting that runs 2 to 3 hours. And that is critically important that we plan every aspect of the search, because it is your search and one that we want to know what's important to you. We have listening sessions, board interviews, individual interviews, and focus groups where we listen to usually 12 to 15 meetings total in that particular process. And then with those community forums, and then we have stakeholder surveys. Those surveys are based on 25 years of research on practices of effective superintendents. It's based on the information from the listening sessions and the surveys, we can put together a leadership profile report that we bring back to you to review, provide input, edit it, and then it will actually be something that you vote on and say, this is what our next leader needs to have in terms of skills and expertise. We use that leadership profile report in our recruiting, so that we can eliminate those that don't have some of the specific skills that you need and want in your district. And so that is our whole engagement. When we do the focus groups, you can see we have different meeting formats, some face-to-face, Zoom. I don't need to read all of that. We have flexible meeting times. We can meet any time of the day, some potential groups, and we will ask you in the planning meeting what groups are really important. In some districts, it might be a civic group, or it might be a parent group, or it might be a student group even, that you feel like is critically important for those focus groups. And we like to reach all of your community members in some way with it. We are your ambassadors in this process. We speak and have interact with the community in the community engagement, but also with the candidates on your behalf. We excel in navigating the real complex dynamics of listening and validating others, their voice, and promoting strengths of the district with the candidates. I'd like to pass it on to Ms. Ibarra now, who will go forward with a little more explanation of each phase.
Yes, thank you. So yes, so the next phase is the recruit phase, and the recruit phase is very targeted and proactive. We post the position immediately on our HYA website and other avenues that we use to advertise, because we want to ensure the maximum exposure of the posting. And we also began actively recruiting candidates throughout the nation and the state. We have a network of 130 associates who are very knowledgeable and know of sitting superintendents and aspiring superintendents who may be interested in moving to Arizona, who may be looking for an opportunity here in Arizona. So we leverage that network. And then we also begin our pre-screening and reference checking and our initial background checking. So some of the tools that we have as HYA associates at our disposal, one of them is a candidate profile system. And basically this is a dashboard of all the candidates that have applied, that have a profile at HYA. And so we have access to all those applications. And one thing that we can do with this dashboard is we can query the leaders by qualifications that are listed specifically in your profile, leadership profile report. So we can query by experience, degree, size of district, state, etc. Once we query and we have that list, then we actively begin recruiting those candidates that we believe are a good fit. So we make phone calls, we schedule meetings, and so they can also ask questions to see if Liberty is a good fit for them. HYA also provides advertising analytics. So you as a board, as well as us as associates, we're very interested to understand the amount of interest in the position. And so we know immediately on a day-to-day basis how many users are looking at the posting, how many views is that posting getting, how many minutes or seconds are they spending on the posting. So all of this information is vital as we move forward to determine if there is sufficient interest in the position, or do we have to go back and talk to you and strategize? Perhaps we need to modify something in the application. Perhaps we need to consider the benefits package and so forth. Now, once the application closes, the recruitment phase closes, so then we begin the select phase. And in the select phase, we begin as associates by interviewing the candidates. So we spend about an hour with each of the candidates to get to know them and determine if they align to the leadership profile for your school district. Once we interview all the candidates, then we will present all the slates. We don't exclude anybody, all the slate of candidates to you, the board. But we help you to narrow down the slate to about 5 or 6 semifinalists so that you can begin to interview for semifinalists. During that time, we also continue with reference checks. We also conduct blind reference checks because we want to hear not only from those individuals that the candidates listed on their application, but also those individuals who have worked with these candidates, but they're not listed. And it's very important that we also hear their perspective. This time, we also work with you in a workshop to develop those interview questions, so in preparation for the semifinalist interviews. We also take care of all the logistics, and of course, with look at your calendar too, so we can schedule the interviews with the semifinalists and semifinalists. Once you get to the semifinalists, which usually goes from 5 or 6 semifinalists to 2 or 3 finalists, then at that point we talk to you about a third-party due diligence background check. This is a background check that we do recommend because it provides information that we cannot provide. Information such as degree verification, criminal history, ratings, and they go very deep also into social media presence. So all of that information is provided through a third party. And then finally, as you select your superintendent, then we assist you with the announcement to your community and posting this information on your website and the media and so forth. Now, once you select your superintendent, then we move on to the transition phase. So we want the superintendent that you select to be very successful, just like you. So we know that that transition is critical. So we provide a 2 to 3 hour workshop with the board and superintendent. And during this workshop, you reflect on what was learned through the search process, as well as set some norms and set some initial goals. In addition, HYA, our company, provides a 6-month transition virtual academy for the superintendent and 1 board member. And these sessions can be attended by different board members as a rotation, and they cover topics that are critical to the superintendency. By the end of the virtual academy, the superintendent will have developed 4 artifacts: a 100-day plan, an analysis of the strategic plan, an evaluation, and some key progress indicators to measure his progress on his goals that he has set. So very, very thorough, excellent virtual academy to support the superintendent during that transition. Now, maintaining the board is very, very important to us. We believe in transparent and responsive communication with the entire board. And so to facilitate this communication, we provide you with a board portal. And this portal is a confidential website where only you have access to this information. Any materials, any information, any documents pertaining to the search, you will find in this board portal. We organize the portal by phases so that you can quickly access whatever information you're looking for, and it is accessible, obviously, 24/7. So it doesn't matter. We know you're very busy, and you may be, the only time that you may be able to look at this information is in the middle of the night. So that is why we provide this tool for you to make it accessible to you any time of day or night. And Nola will talk about the timeline.
This is only the framework of what we propose as a possible calendar, but it gives you a beginning and the end. We look at the planning meeting as soon as you make a decision. We'll get that on the calendar, and we will begin our individual board member interviews that help us with that community engagement. Sometime toward the end of November, 1st of December, we will start the interview and focus groups. That may have to be slid to the 1st of January. We just don't know what is on your calendar and what you're facing, but it all depends on that timeline. We can post the position almost immediately, and we can begin accepting applications almost immediately. As you can see, and we go forward, we'll do all the reference checks. We've shared with you each of the phases, but this large framework puts you offering a contract sometime in early March, and the transition activities in April and May, and that should help you with a lot of superintendents look for jobs in the springtime, so it puts you kind of ahead of that rush. But all those dates will be determined by you on that first planning meeting. One of the things that I neglected to mention in my interview is we live 6 months in Goodyear. So we are in the region for 6 months, even though we have our summer home in Colorado. During this time frame, we will be in Goodyear, which should help with the flexibility of the dates. And so I'll turn it over to Sylvia for the fee structure.
Yeah, so our base fee is $18,500, and this includes 6 on-site days here in the district, as well as the community engagement piece, interviews, focus groups, forums. And it includes what we call a standard Google survey. This survey basically aligns to all the activities. We ask those 3 essential questions, which is what are the strengths of the districts, what are the challenges, and what are the qualities and attributes that you are seeking in your next leader. It also includes the advertising on our HYA website, as well as K-12 JobSpot, and background checks conducted by us, not the due diligence background check, but we also can do background checks to the best of our ability, do social media presence, and of course all the reference checking and so forth, as well as the transition services, the 1 on-site transition workshop, and the 6 virtual sessions. Now we offer optional enhancements, and I will tell you this, all you need is in the base fee. Then that will give you a very successful and thorough superintendent search. But we offer the enhancements because some districts ask for it. And so absolutely we can offer enhancements, and we'll be happy to discuss those further if you are interested.
And then, of course, we have a guarantee, and that is that if you within the first year, for some reason, need to separate from the superintendent that you've selected, we provide the search at no cost, except for the travel and advertising, and that background check cost. If the majority of the board is still in place in 2 years, we provide that same guarantee for 2 years. And the superintendent that is selected here will not be presented as a candidate in any other search during the first 3 years of employment. So you're not going to have a great superintendent and then we come along and select them for another position. So that's our guarantee.
So why HYA? Well, everyone at HYA, we're all educators, retired educators. many of us superintendents, and so we're passionate about education. And we believe that every student, every child deserves the best quality education. So our mission is to work for school districts to help them secure the best, most highly qualified superintendent for the school district that places students first. We also work for you. As the board, you are our clients, and so we customize our services to meet your needs and your priorities. And we have an infrastructure, excellent infrastructure with many tools that saves us time and allows us to conduct a very efficient and timely superintendent search. And lastly, we are a well-established firm with many, many successful searches to our name and many successful clients. Very many satisfied clients. And so again, this concludes our presentation. Thank you again for this opportunity, and we are open to any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Any questions from members of the board?
Yes, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
I think, I'll just ask some clarifying questions initially, but I feel like, one of the things that really stood out to me was that portal that, the board really has access to so much at all times, and the entire board, not just the board president or whoever your point of contact is. So I think that's really important and something that I'm personally looking for to ensure that the board has equal access to all information. We did go through an interim search recently. And so, I'm kind of learning from that experience. And I also sat in on the search we did about 6 years ago. Can the application, or does your application contain some short answer questions where we kind of get a feel for their writing and how they express themselves? Or is it something that could be added?
Definitely both. So one of the things that we do is that they obviously submit 5 artifacts, and that is the application, their resume, and 3 letters of reference. And then through our screening interview, then we meet with them and we ask them questions that are aligned to the leadership profile report and also to your needs. By then, we'll have met with you and we know exactly what you're looking for. However, during the interview phase, then you certainly can create a task, and many superintendents do. They create a task and they respond to that task in advance or sometimes during the interview. And so it's part of the semifinalist interview. And so that you're able to gauge what you're looking for and exactly what it is that you're looking for. So yes.
Okay, that was one of my questions too, is could we integrate a task into the interview? Talking about that initial interview that you guys do, is that recorded for us to watch, or is that just something that you're conducting?
We have the ability to do that, but we usually don't. The reason being, at that point, there are some candidates that have not committed to moving forward, and confidentiality is critically important to them. And so they're really just talking to us about the district and about what they have to offer, and it's more of a conversation. So we typically don't do it then for that confidentiality, and because we're often trying to convince them this is a great move for them.
And
I also wanted to add that what we do, however, is we transcribe all the notes and we provide a summary. So you're very quickly able to evaluate the responses because when we present the slate, we also provide you with supporting documentation and a summary of the information that we gathered and our initial thoughts on each of the candidates.
Okay, that was one of my follow-up questions. So then do you kind of transcribe your reference checks and internet searches and all of that?
Yeah, so we provide you with a list or like an Excel sheet, and it has all that information, the name, the reference checks, the comments that we gathered from each of the reference checks, and again, basically a summary of what was said about the applicant, good and bad, like I said, and that's where the tiering comes. So if the candidates are excellent candidates and meet the qualifications, their reference checks are good references, including blind checks, all of that information, of course, makes them a tier 1. But again, through the reference checking, through our vetting, sometimes we find areas of concern. Or perhaps they're good candidates, but they may be lacking. Perhaps you want someone that has a doctorate or has experience as a sitting superintendent. So maybe they're lacking that, but yet they meet the rest of the qualifications. So that would be a level 2 and so forth. Yeah.
When you're doing the the blind reference checks or the ones they provide, do you ensure that you talk to somebody from their previous district or their current district? Because there's been some discussion about, well, if they say they don't want us to contact their current district, we're not going to. But to me, that feels a little concerning.
We won't bring them forward to interview with you until they've given us permission to talk to their previous district. We
you.
may hold off, but when we say, all right, you're supposed to go to the board on this day, we need 48 hours. You have to commit one way or another. You need to tell your board president that you're visiting with Liberty, you know, so that we have a chance then to speak. And we want not only their board, but we also want one of their direct reports.
Yeah.
So we give them a list. We need to talk with the parent, you know, before you would go forward to the board.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can the finalist interviews be done in open session?
Yes, in Arizona, yes. In depends on the state, right? So in Texas, for instance, it's confidential, completely confidential. So that would never happen in Texas because that's the law. However, here in Arizona, yes. And so that's exactly what we did in Mesa. They were we had community engage with the candidates, and so they had an opportunity to ask questions of the candidates and also rank them, give the board immediate feedback through a Google survey on their thoughts on each of on the top 3 candidates. So, so let me back up a little bit. So the interview with the board, that is behind closed doors, but part of the interview consists of interviews or a meeting with community members, could be students. So we work with you to determine which groups will be part of this meet and greet, if you will.
And to go back to the question, you said the interview with the board is an executive session, but if the board chooses, can the finalist interview with the board be in open session?
The finalists.
Yes.
The finalists.
Yes.
Yes.
Which would be the top 3. Yes.
Okay. And so talking about the semi-finalist interview versus the finalist interview, I noticed in the, proposal that the finalist interview is almost like a follow-up. You're able to ask questions of something that piqued your interest. So, am I understanding that then we could ask different questions of each candidate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I think-
And that, the first one we structure for you. That's part of, we want to make sure we get a curriculum question, a public relations question, that we have some broad areas that you want every candidate to answer so you have some comparison. When you get to the finalists, now you can lead off of that first interview and say, when you met with us on the way you handle your district organization, you said this. Describe that a little bit better and tell us how that really works. Yeah.
Okay. And then just to talk about the fees a little bit. So when it says the consultant would be on site for 6 days, is the travel pay for the consultant in addition to that base fee for each of those 6 days?
Yes,
Yes, it is.
so if I'm coming from Texas, yes, that travel would be included. We do cap it, however. So we cap it at 10,000, and we don't think we would get to 10,000 because it would only be me traveling. Nola lives here, so that's a great advantage. So she's 30 minutes away. And so we can also minimize cost with virtual meetings. Now, the meetings where we would both need to be here in person, obviously, community engagement. And we do 2 days, 3 days, depending on your needs. And again, with Chandler, we did 3 full days. With Mesa, we did 2 days. Smaller districts may only need 1 day. So those are variables. But yes, the travel is not included in the fee.
Okay. And then obviously the candidate, if the board chooses to pay for the candidate's travel. And then the posting of the site or the posting of the position on other websites is an additional fee.
Yes, ALAS and NASP.
The
Those are-
National Association for Black Educators is a separate organization, and
Yes.
the ALAS for the Hispanic.
Latino administrators, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So those are additional
Just
costs.
because we don't make any money on that, it's just they charge for posting on their websites.
But the AASA,
Yes, so there's packages, and so that information is included in your appendix in the proposal. And so the ones that are typically, that most districts want to include or add on is ALAS and NASP. However, yes, there's many other options that you have in your proposal. Because with our standard fee, we post on our HYA website, as well as our platforms, our social media platforms and so forth, and the K-12 job spot. Now, we do get 25,000 views per month. So HYA is like a hub for candidates who are looking for jobs, because we not only post our searches, but all searches in the state, regardless of the firm. And so that's why we have so many candidates complete a leadership profile and in the system. And that's why we have so many candidates that we can query and look at all the different leaders that are out there. And again, by qualification, as we previously mentioned.
and then I just have one final question for now. While I'll let the other board members ask questions, but the guarantee, if the board decides to separate from the superintendent within the first year, is the guarantee still in effect, or is it only if the superintendent chooses to leave?
It's still in effect in both ways.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from other board members?
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
can you talk a little bit more about your Arizona experience, like the last 5 years, what districts you've worked with and your successes? If anything went wrong, you don't have to tell us a district where you had a problem, but just tell us if you've had any. But I would like to know very much which districts you've worked with here in Arizona.
Yes. Well, I have worked with Arizona, 2 school districts in Arizona, and that is, again, the Mesa Public Schools, and that was about a year ago, to be exact, that they hired their superintendent. No, it went very well. We had a very successful search. It was abbreviated to some degree at the request of the board, so by December, they had already selected the superintendent. We started in early November, and it ended at the end of December. Again, very successful, and that superintendent is still there. And then the other experience for me here in Arizona is the current team that I'm working with at Chandler Unified. And we just completed the community engagement, which is why I'm here. We had 3 very fruitful days of community engagement. And so it's going very well. And so they're, according to their timeline, they should be in contract negotiations at the latter end of January, early February.
So, I guess my next question is, we had asked you guys to come present previously. I guess where I'm looking at is I want to make sure that we're going to be a priority. We'd ask you to come previously to present to the board, and feedback that we got back was that you would come, but there was going to be a fee. We'd have to pay for you to travel to come out here, unless you're already going to be here for another district, which I guess that's where you're at now. That's a little bit concerning to me, first of all, to ask a district to pay for you to come present to get business. But secondly, I want to know that we're going to have priorities, and I think we're a little behind the 8 ball, honestly, now, because what we've originally heard is we should have this posted and have a good plan by Thanksgiving so everybody can start applying by Christmas holiday. You're talking about probably January and hiring somebody in March, which if we hire somebody in March, that leaves whatever district they're leaving a pretty short time frame. So I just want to know that there's some assurances of priority, and I've never, in all of my years, I've never heard anybody say, well, if you can pay our way to come out to present for a business
Yes.
response. So if you could maybe clarify some of that.
Definitely. And so when we secure an agreement, definitely the district that we're working for becomes our priority. As associates, we submit proposals so at our cost. And so we have to take that into account. And so I was initially, we were invited to come and present. And my colleagues, because to your point, they already had the 2 other colleagues of mine, the ones working in Chandler, because of the commitment to that district and another district in another state, they said, we just can't do it, and which I understood. We received a second invite, and so at that time, I was going to come, but I didn't hear back in a timely manner. So I was ready with the reservations and so forth, and by the time I got confirmation and I went back, it had skyrocketed. And so at that point, again, I had to weigh my options, and so I did. I was very honest. I said, it's just too much for me, and so unless the district is open to supporting with some of the costs, then I will have to decline. And so that's what happened, and I respected that. I was invited again a third time, and of course, my colleague here lives here in Arizona, which of course would address that issue, that she's close, and that is certainly an advantage that she's here local. So between the 2 of us, we would be able to prioritize your district for everything. And again, once we meet with you, if we secure an agreement, a contract, then that's why that calendar is so important, because then you become a priority and everything else becomes secondary. So that calendar, that timeline is very important to you as well as us, so that we can commit and be able to comply with all of your needs and meet all your priorities.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Madam President?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for what you do. I'm just, a lot of my questions have been answered already, but I'm just trying to add up the fee structure. It looks like you have the base fee, which is the 18.5, and then a lot of add-ons. And so some of these things, we talked about the transition period, and it looks like that's another $10,000. Is that correct?
No, the transition, the two-hour Word workshop and the virtual academy are included in the fee. Because you would be our client. If you're not anybody can join the virtual academy, and for anyone else who's not a client, then that would be $4,500. So that is included in the fee when you partner with us.
Okay. All right. I got it now. So those other options, basically anybody can use you
Exactly.
guys for like consultant
Yes, sir.
situation. Okay. That's kind of what I was looking at there. One thing we didn't really discuss much was the survey. So it does, the base fee does not include the survey, or it does?
So we include a standard Google survey. So when we meet for community engagement with your constituents, we ask them 3 essential questions. And we ask the same 3 questions with all regardless of the meeting type. So we ask, what are the strengths of the district? What are the challenges or opportunities in the district, and then what are the qualities and characteristics that you're seeking in your next leader. And so we gather all this information and then present it to you in the form of a leadership report. The standard survey asked exactly the same 3 questions to anyone else who was not able to participate in the forums and the committees and the individual interviews. The research-based surveys takes it another step, a step further. So the research-based question has those same 3 questions, but you can also add additional questions, and you get a state of the district analysis. So your respondents are able to give you feedback on how satisfied they are with your district, your leadership, your curriculum, everything basically in your district. So they're able to give you a rating of how they feel, and they're also able to give you what they consider to be the top characteristics that they would like to see in the next superintendent. So are able to rank. The Google Standard Survey is open-ended, qualitative. This, they're able to give you the top 4 choices, and then we disaggregate that data for you by category. So for students, these are the top qualities and characteristics that they seek in their superintendent. Parents, administrators, community members, and so forth. So the research-based survey goes above and beyond what the standard survey offers.
The research-based survey would allow you to work with your superintendent on setting goals. It allows the district, you as a board, to set goals for the next year or 2 years based on feedback you have gotten there, and it's disaggregated again by groups. Like we're doing really well with our parent groups that know what we're doing and what our plan is. For our larger group, maybe we need to do more community outreach. So it gives you that disaggregated information in order to set some district goals.
Okay, thank you. So as you said earlier, that 18,500 base fee plus the travel, that's basically going to wrap up what you would assume we would need to get us going. I'll speak for myself. I'm kind of in a hurry. I don't want to rush the process, but I don't want to drag it out either. And so with that, I also don't want surprises of, oh, by the way, you're going to need this and it's going to cost this much, and you're going to need this and it's going to cost this much. So thank you for putting all these options in here. It was just, I was trying to understand a little bit better of what we need versus, all the optional things. So
I would add that I sense a feeling of anxiety about a timeline and making sure that you have your superintendent in place early. I think February would really be your time that it would select. You'd be doing a contract 1st of March, but February, that is not an unusual time frame for superintendents. They don't really start thinking about a new job for the following year until after the holidays. Then when we contact them in December, January, they're like, I'm fine where I am, because frankly, we want a superintendent that's happy where they are. We don't necessarily want one that's ready to get out of the place that they're in. But then they're starting to think about it. And so that January, February time frame is intense, and you'll have a superintendent in place.
thank you.
Madam President,
Go ahead.
thank you so much for coming out and giving this presentation first. My second question is about, that hasn't already been answered, is about the background check. So it says you do the social media background checks and reference checks and stuff. So if you guys are doing that internally, like, what do you have in place to mitigate bias if you guys are the ones going into social media, and what are you looking for?
Well, the background check that does cost money, we highly recommend that, because that'll do the criminal that we can't get access to, financial, frankly, making sure that there are things that we know, and the social media much more in depth than we're able to do. We do one to, as really, plain people doing searches. This company that we, as our third party, this is their work, and they dig up and find whatever that is out there. And so I would always recommend to a board that at least on your top candidate, you do a thorough this third party background check.
Okay, but if you guys are doing it, what are you doing to mitigate bias?
So we leverage AI. Everybody nowadays knows the power of AI. And so that's one way that we also do our searches, especially for background checks and looking for anything that may be a concern. It's pretty accurate, and we have been using it for the past few searches. And as far as mitigating biases, we when we meet with our candidates, we actually are recruiting actively a diverse pool of candidates, and so we bring everyone to you, and you will be the ones to determine who moves forward or not. And to us, of course, we encourage a diverse pool of candidates to apply, and we support them along the way, all candidates, by providing as much information about the process. But again, our intent is just to make sure that we uncover any concerns. And it's amazing some of the things that we find, that we discover through our search using AI, especially as I mentioned. And so we'll bring that to your attention. And if we feel, there's some concerns or some red flags, definitely we don't recommend that you move forward with those candidates at all.
Okay, so we set our criteria and say a candidate meets it all, even though they might be crazy on social media. Would you still send that person forward because they met all of our criteria and just tell us, hey, this person is, I want to look at their social media, or do you make the determination not to put them into the candidate pool?
Well, they're in the candidate pool once they meet the qualifications of the position. We will bring them forward. We're going to tell you 5 or 6 candidates we think should be in the semifinal round. But I have, not frequently, but I've been in my searches, which is about 20 I've completed in my years since I've retired, where the board says, how come this candidate isn't in there? And we explain, maybe they're pretty active on social media, and we wondered if that was going to be, we just felt like there were other candidates that perhaps didn't have that same level of presence, whatever it might be. And the board said, we want to meet with them. And in one case, that's the one they selected. So absolutely, in that round, when you get ready and you've seen the whole list of people, even though we say these are the ones we think are the best candidates, it's your search.
Thank you so much for your presentation and answering all of these questions. I just have a few that haven't been asked yet. So, Dr. Wellman, you live here for 6 months.
Yep.
So would you be our lead representative point of contact for our search?
I can be, or Sylvia, of course, is by phone and by email.
Okay.
And with 2 of us, because we've both been on teams with 3 or 4 other associates, with just 2 of us, it's easy for us to communicate one way or the other. And I say that, a caveat, of course, is during the holiday time, I have grandchildren in Denver, so I will be going back to Denver.
That's fair. And then how many searches are you currently working on? How is your time being divided right now?
I'm not doing any and have not done any in 25. When we connected, I said, sure, that's real close. I'll be happy to do it. And so I have not done any this year.
Okay,
And I'm not doing any.
great.
And I am collaborating on 2 others. I am not the lead, however, because I don't live in the state of Arizona. We are also conducting a search in the state of Washington. Again, I'm not the lead because I don't live in Washington. So I support. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. We are here with you, but we continue the work from home. We work from home, doing our reference checks and making phone calls and vetting all their candidates. And so all that work still has to be done, and that can be done from anywhere. I think the concern that you may have is our presence here when we're needed. And again, we also have other associates here in Arizona that we can tap on and ask them to support us as needed. But yes, because she is here local, she can certainly be the lead, and then we'll collaborate as much as possible.
Great. Thank you so much.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Please.
Okay. As I was reading through the proposal, it sounded like one of the 6 times that you're on site is not during the interviews. So are you in the interviews? What are you participating, not participating, but kind of guiding the interview process on site, or is that really just the board?
I'll tell you my experience, and Sylvia may have had different experiences. That is really up to the board. It has not been something, because we hope we've trained you very well, and that at that point we're ready for you to select your superintendent. Now, that being said, as soon as you finish your first round, and now you have 6 candidates and all their information, and your head is jumbling around, we have a process in order to help you whittle that down to the top 2 or 3. And yes, we are on site for that process. Usually it's immediately following, but we're not in the interviews with you. But immediately following that, when you're ready to deliberate about those candidates, then we have a process to help you do that.
And my experience is slightly different. We have been with the board and facilitating, actually, following the candidates and guiding them and so forth, because there's activities throughout the day. So one of the activities is meeting with the board and interviewing with the board, but there's also activities. So they're going to the campus, and then they're going to a meet and greet and so forth. And so those candidates need guidance. And so if there's 2 or 3, then we go ahead and guide them and support them and just make sure that they're making it to the right place. And so we're kind of the liaison between the candidate and the board.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you both for your presentation. We really appreciate it.
The time, appreciate it.
All right. That moves us on to agenda item 3.2. McPherson and Jacobson, a presentation relating to the permanent superintendent search. Mr. Don Grotting.
Perfect.
Perfect. Well, go ahead.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you for inviting me here. I'm here representing McPherson and Jacobson. My name's Don Grotting. Just a little bit about myself. Was a superintendent for 25 years in Oregon in various size districts, all the way from under 1,000 to the last one was 42,000 students. 2 of those districts were minority-majority school districts, in which the largest population was Hispanic. I currently have 3 educators in my family. One's an elementary teacher, and 2 of them are at secondary level. A little bit about McPherson and Jacobson. They are like HAA, a national company. We have about 130 consultants, and we have been in business since 1991. We also, in addition to providing superintendent searches, provide other leadership opportunities and other searches also, but primarily we focus on superintendent searches. Good pictures of yourself there. Our core value is that we believe that regardless of where you're at, every student deserves a great education, quality education. In order for that student to have a quality education, they have to have quality leadership in place. And that's an effectively working superintendent, board, and leadership to make that happen. We also believe that that leadership needs to have some longevity and needs to have some sustainable outcomes. One of the things that you'll see in our group here with Matt, I call him Mac and Jake, is that we have 80% of our successful superintendents in districts are still there after 5 years. 80% of those superintendents are still there after 5 years. After 10 years, 60% of those superintendents are still there. And after 15 years, we still have 40% of those superintendents still in the district. This is the most important job a board can do. Right now, you're doing it. It's, you have all the other governance issues, but the number one and most important job you're doing right now. So applaud you for your efforts, applaud you for taking the time, loved your questions, great questions. So we have a track record of success. I'm going to go into a little bit about myself, and when I was talking, and I'll hopefully answer some of the questions that you asked. I have participated in both the Peoria and Litchfield superintendent search. That was a couple years ago, and I'm currently involved with Gilbert and Peoria, or excuse me, not Peoria, Cave Creek. So those are the searches I'm currently involved in right now. Once again, you look and this, so you can see some of our success, and I think this says something about the firm. We're going to bring you successful candidates, someone that's going to match not only your district's values but also your community's values. And your expectations of accountability around students' achievement, student success, whole-rounded child. We really want to dig in with you. When we have our first meeting with the board, we really, really want to talk to you about what are the values of this board and the values of your community. So these are our consultants, and I want to bring your attention, I believe it's on page 27 and 28 in the folder that I gave you, and it basically says the lead consultant is Dr. Joel, and the reason it says that, and then Christy Wilson would be assisting him. I will be assisting, but I probably will not be the lead consultant in the fact that right now I have a couple parents that are not doing well in their 90s. And so, but I will be here. I actually live in Gilbert. Once again, moved from Oregon. I live in Gilbert, and I know Christy Wilson is nearby. Dr. Joel has a place in Nebraska, but as well as California. But our job's to serve you. Our job is to be on your timeline. I listened to a board member talking about the sense of urgency. Which firm you hire, we want to have a sense of urgency. I have that sense of urgency. I've been a superintendent. I do believe trying to get it done effectively and efficiently as quickly as possible is necessary to get the best applicant. The other thing I want to talk to you just a little bit about is when we start getting these applications, please know, and I believe my colleagues would agree with me, the majority of those applications who are serious about taking this job or any other job, they come in that last week before closing. They actually come in the last week before the closing deadline files. And that's just that's the nature of the beast. So figuring out when do we want that to close, what's your timeline in looking at that. Once again, we've done districts of all size. Sustainability of leadership, I think that's so important. I would say it really takes a superintendent to start realizing the fruits of the board's work and his or her work to do it right. You really start seeing that long, sustainable achievement start coming around 2 to the 3 year mark. You cannot have revolving doors with a superintendent, because then the staff has to get used to what are his or her priorities. You need to have somebody that's able to come in, work with the board, have a strategic plan that's going to be able to build on sustainability for your students. We are going to be transparent with you, with the stakeholders. We work for the Board of Education. You are our boss. You're going to talk to us about what stakeholder groups you desire to have in there, what kind of interviews. I know I heard a little bit about what type of interviews. Are they open? Are they closed? Different types of interview questions. Are we going to bring you all the applicants? You can have access to all the applicants. Our job is really to go out and vet and bring you the very best for the students in the Liberty Elementary School. We want to bring you the very best. And I will tell you that we have about our site, just to give you, we have about 250,000 hits on our site a month. 250,000 hits. Now, those are hits. When you get down to people that are actually coming on, applying, being serious about it, but there are a lot of people coming to our site. We stand on the strength of our references. I know there's all you have to do is open up a newspaper or to read on the television. Reference checks are absolute must, mandatory. In addition to the references that the applicant provides, you got to go beyond there. I've never seen somebody submit a reference and expecting that reference was going to be bad. So we want to dig a little bit deeper. We want to go not only the references that they provide, but then dig a little bit deeper and find out who else have they been acquainted with. And more than that, what's their track record? I would just tell you, and looking at a superintendent, what's their track record? Go on, look at their student achievement, their student success. How do they interact with their staff? Community engagement, are they doing this? If they're not doing it somewhere else, chances are they're not going to do it here. If they're doing it somewhere else and they're doing it well, they're probably going to come here and they're going to do it well also. Our basically framework is broken into 5 phases. And phase 1 is where we really sit down with the board and we talk to you about what are the characteristics you'd like to see in the next superintendent. What's your compensation package? What is your range for a compensation package? What's the jobs description going to look like? What stakeholder groups do you think are important to engage in your community? Establish the search and the timeline. If the board agrees that, hey, this has got to go quick, we want it to go well, but we want it to go quick, we work with you. You are our boss. We're not telling you what to do. You're telling us what you need and what your expectations are. In phase 2, we meet with the stakeholders. So we'll come in and meet with the stakeholders. Typical stakeholder groups are teachers, PTAs, I saw parents, meeting with parents, classified administrators. If you have a district leadership team, sometimes we do students, business, open forum communities. It's really when we talk to you, you're going to talk to us and say, what stakeholder groups would you like involved in this process? In addition, I'll talk just a little bit about, we work with a company called K-12 Insight, and they are our survey, our community survey. So that survey is able to go out to staff, it's able to go out to parents, other community members, and they can come in and they can log in and they can give us their thoughts on the district. And there's about 9 different areas, and we can even add an area, but we go into everything from, how do you think the district's doing with their finances? How do you think the district's doing with student success, student achievement, community engagement? How do you think the current leadership is interacting with staff? Are staff feeling good about their jobs? Do staff feel supported? So there's 9 different areas. And then we also ask 3 different questions. Tell us why somebody would want to come and be the superintendent of the Liberty School District. What are the biggest challenges and issues facing the Liberty School District? And what characteristics would you like to see in the next superintendent? And it will measure, it will give you an excellent, good, fair, poor, and you will be able to see that as a gauge, as well as you get all the comments. We provide you with each and all those comments. Now, those comments are not signed. They're not you don't know exactly who did it. However, we do distinguish, is it a parent that has this comment? Is it staff that have these comments? Is it a community member that's maybe has no children in the school? So that's clarified there. The third phase, and there's a lot of more intricacies in these phases, but third phase is basically where we evaluate all the applicants. We conduct reference checks, background investigations, and then we invite selected candidates, after meeting with the board, getting your approval, to interview them. And then once they're interviewed, they actually provide a video that board members are able to see answering specific questions. And once again, those questions can be from the board. We have a list of questions, but if the board has some specific questions that they would like, so they basically have a limited time frame in which they go on, provide a video. You're able to go in and we present those videos for you. In phase 4, we meet with the board. We review the short list of candidates. We'll provide you all the applicants. What I will tell you is sometimes, even though they may fundamentally meet the requirements in doing reference checks, background checks, maybe they've been released from their school district already. There's issues going on in which you would not want them to be an applicant for the Liberty School District. We assist the board in identifying those candidates, and then we prepare the board for the interview process. I'm going to try to answer those questions. If you want us there during the process, we can be there. Another thing that I've seen done before was sometimes the chair of the stakeholder groups, the board would appoint a chair of stakeholder groups. Sometimes those candidates will go to the stakeholder groups before coming to the board for the interview. And then all of the comments, questions, and everything's provided to each and every board member. So stakeholder groups have another additional role in that process. We're responsible for keeping all the applicants informed of their process. That includes the successful ones as well as the unsuccessful ones. So your HR department, you folks, you really don't have to, you don't have to do anything. We're going to take care of all that. And then in phase 5, we meet with the board and the selected successful candidate, and we try to work with you to set 2 or 3 concrete performance measures that you would like to see happen. And that's really between, you know, we work with you, but it's really between the board and the superintendent, and we help provide that. And then the other thing we do, we provide a guaranteed 2 years. If that candidate decides to leave for any reason, if the board wants him to leave or they leave, then we'll come back and we'll basically do the search for just travel expenses and whatever. We're not going to charge you again. Once again, you can go through, and the advertising's outlined on page 27. Really, I believe that the majority of candidates, superintendents who are out there looking for jobs, they're accessing multiple superintendent search firms. And so we know who those people are. We're reaching out. Once again, we provide those video interviews, the criminal, financial, degree verification. They are done. A lot of times you wouldn't believe, we really dig into the finances too. A lot of times, and we do social media and try not to bring our biases. If something comes up, we'll definitely present that to the board. Here's what we're thinking, but we want you to know maybe you're thinking something else. And just, you know, once again, this is going to be your hire. It's not our hire. So trying to look at all those social media sites, but not bringing our biases. And what I'll say as a successful superintendent is if you've been a superintendent for a long time, you've probably made somebody mad with a decision or two you've made. Somewhere along the line, you've made a decision, and maybe it was probably based on what's best for kids. Maybe it wasn't best for somebody else, but none of us walk on water, and we've made some decisions that maybe have not been good, but hopefully all decisions that a superintendent makes is number one with kids first, and making sure to support staff. Travel expenses for consultants for scheduled trips to the school district. So as you see up there, $15,950, that's all in. We're not going to come to you and say, what about this? What about that? Now, there have been times where a board has asked a consultant to stay on maybe a 1.5 or 2 year transition. And that's really between the consultant and the board if you want that to happen. But the $15,950, that is all in. There's no extras. If you need us, whenever you need us, the people that you saw on the thing, Dr. Joel, Christy Wilson, and myself, we're 24/7. We know that most of you have jobs, and sometimes you might have to call 10 or 11 o'clock at night. That's okay with me. Call on a weekend. That's okay. We're going to really try to work for you, try to meet your time schedule, and get you somebody that's going to do a great job for the kids. I talked a little bit about K-12 Insight, and it's a great tool. You're able to really gauge your community's perception of the school district. And with that might come a lot of good things you didn't know. And there may be some areas where you're saying, wow, I didn't realize parents were thinking this or staff were thinking this. And so it gives you a little bit of a different perspective. questions.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you also for the coming down here and the presentation. Appreciate it. I guess you kind of heard most of our questions in the previous one, but I did want to ask. So, and this kind of follows up with Board Member Zimmerman's question before was, will the consultants all board members have access to the consultants, or is it typically?
All board members, you'll all have our cell phone numbers, you'll have our emails. We do like to usually, for the, I guess for more of the clerical stuff, we really like to work with the board, and we want the board to tell us who is that point of contact that you want us to, maybe you don't have time to call us, maybe you contact them. Maybe it's an administrative assistant. Hey, I want answers to this question, or how many applicants do we have right now? And so we try to do that in scheduling, trying to schedule maybe stakeholder groups. I mean, I don't think you guys want to be on the times and everything that the stakeholder groups are going to be scheduled. You'll tell us who the stakeholder groups are, but just a point of contact for more of the clerical. But to answer your question, every board member has access to us at any time, 24/7.
Thank you.
Ms. Schmidt.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation as well. So how would you communicate with the whole board in terms of, how are you providing reference checks and those video interviews just in general? Like, is that something that's all happening in a meeting? Are you sending that electronically? Do you have a portal as well? Like, how are you doing all that?
Are you talking about updating you on the progress, or?
Kind of both. I mean, I think they're separate questions, how you're updating us, but how are we getting access to all those different things?
Well, specifically for the videos, we'll actually come down and present you the videos. So we'll actually come down, we'll arrange a time with you to present the videos with us in the room to you, and questions after we get what questions you want in the video.
Okay. And when would you provide? So do you provide the board a summary of when you do these reference checks? How is that communicated with the board? Anything you find on social media? Is that all done in a meeting, or is it done electronically?
It's usually done. It can be done electronically. It can be done in the meeting. I would say a little bit of both. Okay. We're probably not going to go in if we run into an applicant with some significant issues. We're probably not going to air that on each and every applicant. And I imagine, I think this will be a well sought out district to be in, an elementary school district. So, but we're not gonna get into all of the details with the board, but we'll definitely talk to the board about specifics or candidates, different candidates. Once again, we'll provide you a list of all the candidates. It's how many candidates applied, the ones that maybe we decided not to bring forward to you, but then you might say, no, I want this person to come forward.
And so how do you determine who submits the video questions?
That comes from the board.
Okay, so
you would tell. Well, we've got a list of questions normally that we've asked applicants that has worked for a majority of boards. But if there's a specific question that you would like, we would probably determine that in our first meeting when we sat down with you and said, hey, we're gonna do this. Do you have some specific questions you'd like to see answered in that video?
But is every candidate doing a video?
No.
Okay, so who's determining who submits video questions?
Well, that would be after we come and present to you the list of finalists that we believe should go forward, and then you'd be able to look at that list and say, yes, we want all those to go forward. Or maybe somebody would say, you know what, I've seen, this is the applicant, and I'd like them to do a video too.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. When you're doing their reference checks, do you talk to their current employer?
Absolutely. We won't, the application will not pass if we cannot talk to their current employer. It just won't pass. And the reference check and the references, they have to be newer. They can't be, a lot of times you'll see people, a reference check that's 3-4 years old, and that just won't cut it with us. So we will tell them, if you are really interested in going forward, you really need, as my colleague said, you really need to talk to your school district and go forward. And a lot of folks want to make sure that they are in the mix, so to speak, before they're putting their name out there.
And I just want to really understand, when you bring us the slate of candidates, like all of the candidates, what are the things that you're bringing to the board for us to review at that time for every single one?
Well, we're bringing you characteristics that hopefully we've learned from you as a board in asking what you want to see in the next superintendent here. We're bringing you characteristics that stakeholders want to see. Examples would be, have they done something with student achievement, student success? Do they have good community relationships? Have they great staff relationships, parent relationships? Are they visible in the community? Those type of things. Am I answering your question?
Not exactly.
I interject for 1 second because I think maybe I can help clear it up. I think what Board Member Zimmerman is asking, and tell me if I'm wrong, is when you bring forth the slate of candidates, what actual physically are we getting? Are we getting their application, their resume, the list of their reference checks that you've done with notes attached? I think that's what she's trying to ask. What are we going to be able to see about each individual at that time? Am I right? Okay.
Yes. You would get all that information, the reference checks, who did the reference check. We actually like to have the consultant there that did the reference check. There's like 2 or 3 of them. If there's 2 or 3 of us, we actually like to have whoever spoke with that applicant to be there in case there's something comes up, a specific question. So we provide all of that, some detailed notes. And I guess if a board member was looking at an applicant and say, well, why didn't this person come forward? That we would be able to say, well, through reference checks or their resume, it's come to our attention that, this person is currently on a plan of assistance or is currently no longer employed at this school district or whatever. So.
Okay, thank you. That's okay. When we, because we're doing kind of that initial questions, and then we would, kind of narrow it to the finalists. Are we able to ask individual specific questions of the finalists, like different questions, pertaining to their experience or some concern we had or something they said in the initial video interviews?
Yes, we like to have a fair environment for all. We like some of the same questions, but if there's a follow-up, if there's something that in their answers that need to be followed up, or you can say, hey, we noticed in your application you had you were an elementary teacher for 2 years, and then you left and went to the. Can you tell me? Can you expand on why you left that position and went there? Yes, you can do that.
Okay. Are we able to create some sort of performance task for the candidates as part of the interview process?
Absolutely.
Okay. The guarantees, is that if the board decides to separate from the superintendent or only if the superintendent chooses to leave?
You know, I've never had that question asked. I would believe it would probably be either way, because I imagine if the board is asking the superintendent to leave, there's some performance issues that are taking place. Something's not being done. So I would imagine we would honor that either way, whether this person chooses to leave and or the board. You know, there's been an issue that's come up, an impropriety somewhere, and the superintendent is either having to be placed on some sort of administrative leave and with an eventual dismissal. My answer would be yes.
Okay. When I was reading through the proposal and in the part about the different responsibilities, it says the point of contact person selects the names of who would be invited to the community meetings. Is that point of contact person typically a board member or a district staff member?
Yeah, it's typically the board. In that first meeting, you're going to tell us who the stakeholders are going to be. And then usually what we have the board they may choose to delegate to your district leadership team. Hey, we want, I don't know, 3 or 4 teachers from each school. We want to ensure that in the classified staff we have a bus drivers, custodians, nutrition folks. But really, I'll go back to you. It's your call, and the point of, I guess, the person that's the point person is really trying to do the work to help the board with logistic issues. But it's really you folks that are going to tell us what stakeholder groups do you want, how big do you want the stakeholder groups, how many stakeholder groups that you would like, and we try to do those. Usually those stakeholder groups are the meetings take about 45 minutes to an hour each one, so we try to come in on a day when we can do, and we know that, hey, teachers don't get off work till 3:30 or 4 o'clock or whatever. So we try to make sure and do the day. If it means going into the night, we can go into the night. If you want a community meeting. But one of the things that I think will really surprise you is the K-12 survey. It's pretty unbelievable how many people really feel good about talking about the 9 different areas, as well as answering those questions, and it being anonymous, other than the fact that it's going to clarify this was a parent, this was a staff member, community member, business owner, stuff like that. So that's usually a great asset to helping the board get a perspective of different thoughts throughout the district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, board.
Madam President, I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Talking about the K-12 survey, do you know, we've had issues in the past with some surveys where the same person can answer it like 15 times. Do you know if there's some rule in place that K-12 uses to try to delineate this so that it's pretty fair and not weighted?
I've never had that question answered, but I will have that answer to you. Tell me who you'd like it to go to, and I'll get the answer to that question. I'm pretty sure, though, that with all the advances in technology and whatnot, you should only be able to submit once. But I want to be sure. I don't want to tell you something and it can't happen. I would like just if it's okay. I don't want to run over too much time. So I have an actual survey here. And some of the different areas are academic excellence, communication, how's the district communicating, fiscal management, relationship with families, relationship with local organizations, relationship with district staff members, relationship with the surrounding community, student achievement and success. And the last one is transparency. Then it comes, I don't know if you, I can, if you just want to pass it around to the school district, and it gives you the chart like that, and it'll give you the number of respondents and who responded. And the last district I had, they had some special requests on breaking down the respondents, and K-12 Insight was able to do that.
Any other questions?
Madam President, I do have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Similar to the question that was asked previously with the other group, what districts have you worked with and been involved with here in the Valley or in the state?
Yeah, specifically in Arizona, the Litchfield School District and the Peoria School District, we did superintendent searches, and we are currently under contract with Cave Creek and the Gilbert School District.
Thank you. I know you stated some of those at the beginning. I just was seeing in here, you have in here the search. You have, at least the firm has worked with Mesa, Dysart, Scottsdale.
Oh, previously, yeah.
Peoria,
that
yeah.
was before my time.
Okay.
That was before my time.
All right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's actually in the. That's good to point out. So, yeah, I think before colleagues did the Mesa School District, we had previously done Mesa.
I have one just clarification question, making sure I'm understanding this correctly. For the background checks and verifications, so the one that's included in the cost for up to 4 candidates is the one that does the financial, the criminal background and degree verification and all of that. It's the in-depth background check, and that's included for up to 4 candidates.
Yes.
Okay.
And well, I don't want to overtalk. I would say if you decided you were going to have 5 candidates, we'll make sure the 5th one gets in there.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any further questions? All right. Well, then, thank you very much for your time and your presentation.
Thanks to your technology people too. They were great getting us all set up. Both of us.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. That brings us to agenda item 3.3, which is discussion approval of presentations relating to the permanent superintendent search process. So I think at this time we could open this up for discussion.
Madam President, if I may.
Please.
I'm glad we were able to hear throughout this process these 3 different firms with the ASA coming out previously. Just my own personal thoughts, balancing between the cost to the district and experience. I'll try to keep it in the positive notes. I could go negative in certain ways, but I think for what I can see, McPherson and Jacobson, this last presenter, the cost looks like they won't be above 16,000 unless there's something really crazy that happens from what I can see. The one previous Hazard or HYA, their 18,500 base doesn't include the travel, which can be up to $10,000. That's 28,000, That's $28,500. That's significantly higher, and that's just the base, not including if we have to use some of the other services. So I'm a little bit concerned about the price of that one. I know the ASA was the cheapest. However, I had some reservations on how the searches have been conducted in the last couple of years within the valley. There's been a number of placed superintendents that didn't last very long, and they also have no guarantee. As I do appreciate these two presenters do have guarantees that come along with them. So personally, my recommendation is that we go with McPherson and Jacobson and get this going right away. I like how they really also look at the candidate's track record to see if they're bouncing around or if they've been stable. And I believe that they have a much better grasp of not just Arizona, but our area. Dr. Wilson, who would be considered one of our consultants, is, from my understanding, very familiar with the Buckeye Goodyear area. She lives near here. She's also been assistant superintendent and superintendent over at Buckeye Elementary. And so she's very familiar with the area and probably the best out of the consultants who would understand what a good fit would be for our district. So those are my thoughts on that, and I'm willing to continue the discussion.
Ms. Schmidt.
Please.
I understand what Mr. Kenyon has said in terms of cost. So when I look at HYA and the cost, it does feel significantly more. However, this is where I struggle, is I felt much more confident in what we were going to get with their package, I guess. I feel like their due diligence and really bringing all of the information to the board, having it accessible, really spending time with the candidates, vetting them. I really felt very comfortable about that, but I am concerned about the cost. And I know that McPherson and Jacobson is a well-respected firm. I mean, Liberty used them 6 years ago. And I thought I participated in that process as a community member. They brought forth a very excellent candidate that was a superintendent here for 5 years. I just want to ensure that the board is truly getting all of the information, and I didn't feel as confident based on the presentation that we would be getting that. I think also, like, for me, the just kind of little red flag was that, he mentioned that they did Mesa and then they didn't essentially use them again, right? They had to go out and look for a new superintendent. I don't know the time frame, so I don't want to speak to how long could have been 5 years. A change in board obviously changes things. So it's just interesting to me. I would agree that I don't think ASA can provide at this time what we're looking for, or at least what I'm looking for. I shouldn't speak for the board. What I'm looking for, and based on my previous experience with them, I wouldn't be comfortable moving forward. The only thing, and I respect that they left and didn't listen to our discussion, but both of them said they would kind of price match. And so in their proposals, it says that. And so I just wonder if the board, would consider HYA, would it be possible to go back and have a conversation? Would they kind of price match McPherson and Jacobson? Because I do think the cost is an important factor for us based on the financial situation of the district. So those are my initial thoughts.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
So I think I'm in lines with what you guys are saying. The HYA and McPherson Jacobson are the two I'm looking at. The price is an issue. with me also. I do like how the criminal background check is included in the McPherson one. If we wanted to get that done, it would be additional $2,000 per candidate, which is kind of steep. Kind of sounds like we can hold McPherson Jacob to like sharing that information. Like it didn't sound like it's something they normally did, but they sound open. Like, yeah, we can share that. One thing that concerns me about HYA is it kind of feels like a job of opportunity for them. Now that she's living here, now they want to come out and present, which kind of concerned me. Like they didn't even want to take us on because it wasn't convenient for them a couple months ago because they would have to pay. So that kind of concerns me too, because it's more of a job of opportunity than maybe actually trying to help the district. But I'm going to toss up between the two. Those are just my concerns between both of them.
Other comments?
Madam President,
Go ahead.
I think the board has summarized this well between the two organizations. I don't feel, I agree with everybody. ASA is just not at the level that these two firms are at. I would agree also with the cost that HYA has presented. And I think to Vice President Cirencione's point, I'm a little disappointed that they weren't available to us when we first tried to do this. After they said they were, then they came back and said they weren't unless we wanted to pay for them to come out. I've never heard of a company saying pay us to come recruit you for business. So I'm going to be very honest, I have a little bit of a sour taste over that decision that they made. I would say that overall we've seen a pretty good track record with McPherson. What the board might consider doing is requesting a best and final from these two vendors and see what they come back with a best and final. That would of course require us to have another special meeting, and usually you don't give them much time to come back with a best and final offer. My suspicion is that they will price match, but not on the travel part. And I'm still just concerned. HYA has somebody local, but she's already said she's going to be gone quite a bit over the holiday time. I don't think her roots are really here. It's more of a new winter visitor situation. So with McPherson having folks that live local who've worked in the area, I think that puts them ahead in the search process. There is obviously maybe some controversy around some of their folks, but I think again that's going to, as both presenters said, superintendents are always going to make somebody upset. It just seems that's the course. So I'm leaning more towards McPherson. The other option, if I may,
Go ahead.
is that the board consider doing this internally. We've kind of seen the processes. Any of the firms have all basically said the same thing. We've seen the same presentation multiple times. They all come out with about 5 steps, committees and so forth. We could also consider doing this ourselves if we wanted to take that on. It is just an option to surface. Not recommending it or saying it's bad. I'm just surfacing that idea as the last bit.
Right. Maybe shockingly, I think I'm in line with what everyone has said as well. My concern with HYA after reading their proposal last night again, and then hearing from them is their cost. The $18,500 was already a lot. And then, up to $10,000 for travel, which I don't think we would hit. But if the one consultant is traveling from Texas to come here, we have to think about the cost of that, which, could get fairly high. And then the due diligence, which they had 2 options at $1,100 or $1,950 per candidate, where McPherson Jacobson includes 4 background checks that do the same thing in their $16,000. essentially $16,000 price. So that was obviously, it looks much better, and the travel is included. And then McPherson Jacobson also offers the 2-year guarantee versus 1 year from HYA. So there's that to think about too. Best case scenario, we don't need that again, but realistically, it's still good to have it as an option. I do see the benefit of HYA and their portal. I really liked that idea that that's all available 24/7 for all of us to go look at, meaning that everyone would always have access to all of the same information. And there would be no question that all board members were able to access everything and have the same information. We wouldn't have to worry about anything not being disseminated appropriately. Or even the question of that happening, not that it would. I do also like that HYA interviews them personally and doesn't just do the videos, although the videos would probably still be fine. It was just a slight difference for me that I thought was something nice that they seemed to do. I also appreciated their support after hiring, which I think both did. He didn't talk about it very much, but I remember in their proposal, they do have some support after hiring in the transition period, helping set goals between the board and the superintendent. But HYA does have the 3-month transition period plus the extra 6 months that is available for the superintendent, and one board member or all board members could rotate through those trainings however we wanted to handle that. But I thought that was a nice benefit as well. So, I think it could go both ways. They both have like really positive things, and then they have other pieces that are a little questionable or make you wonder. Just, in terms of cost, really is my biggest concern with HYA. Because I think, as Board Member Kenyon said, you could be looking at, we could truly, if they went as high as 10,000 for travel and we had 3 candidates that we needed due diligence on, we're looking at $30,000. That's a lot, when our other option would be 16,000 all in. So weighing that, that seems almost like a no-brainer at that point when we're talking potentially double the amount of money. Potentially. We don't know how much travel would cost us. That's an unknown. So that's kind of scary to me too. So those are my thoughts. Any follow-up?
Madam President?
Please.
Yeah, I agree. I saw a lot of positives with both of the presenters tonight. And my 2 biggest takeaways again are the cost and the experience in Arizona. And so knowing Arizona, knowing the area, I think is going to be pretty pivotal for not just us, but those who are looking for a candidate for our district, already having an idea what the district's like, the struggles, the challenges, all the positives. We have a lot of good things going on here. And being able to get that out to the candidates so that the candidates understand what they're getting into versus they show up, they thought it was one thing, they were presented one thing, but then it's completely different. And now we're having to use that guarantee, which we don't want to use. And so I'm right now still with McPherson and Jacobson personally.
Ms. Schmidt.
Oh, go ahead.
I think we need to use a firm. I just think I want to surface that. I think we need to use a firm. I think our legal counsel told us that we need to use a firm. And I think it's really important that we do that and that we do a good job with this process. And I think that having an outside perspective is imperative in this situation.
Madam President, if I may?
Go ahead.
I think I'm ready to make a motion if everybody's ready for one.
If you're ready to make one, we are ready to hear it.
All right, I make a motion to approve McPherson and Jacobson for the permanent superintendent search process.
Yes.
Mr. Kenyon, can you please repeat that?
Yes, I can, Ms. Camerata. I make a motion to approve McPherson and Jacobson for the permanent superintendent search process.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve McPherson and Jacobson as the firm for the permanent superintendent search, and a second. If there's no other discussion, we can take a vote. All right.
Madam President?
Yes, go ahead.
Do we want to ask McPherson Jacobson for a best and final as well, just to see if they'll sharpen their pencil, put anything else into that? It's fairly common.
I don't have any issue with doing that. Do we need to include that in the motion?
I believe it would have to come to as a part of the motion, but it's just for discussion if the board wants to do that and see if we can maybe get that fifth person definitely locked in. I appreciate the gentleman tonight saying if you had 5, we probably can make it work. I would hate to get down the road and find out it didn't work. They may also be able to sharpen their pencil a little bit on this. I suppose you could ask both candidates, both firms to do that, or we can just keep it the way it is, which will be fine as well. Just for discussion for the board if they want to consider it. I'm fine either way.
I think if we did that, then we really couldn't offer it to them. We'd have to wait to see what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And right now and I do also appreciate that. It's just, I'm in a position right now and my thought process, the sooner we get this going, the better. He did mention that they would probably work with us on some of these questionable areas, and he seemed like they were willing to work with us on some of this stuff, like that fifth candidate, trying to make sure those get included and things like that if we need it. So it seemed fairly flexible, as where HYA didn't necessarily seem like they were very flexible on their prices at that time. So I would like to just leave the motion as it stands.
Okay, so as it stands, we have a motion to select. I'm sorry, Ms. Camerata, could you just read the motion back? Because I don't remember what it is at this point.
Of course, motion was made by Christopher Kenyon, motion to approve McPherson and Jacobson for the permanent superintendent search process. Second by Board Member Brian Cirincione.
Thank you very much. So we have the motion and a second. So Mr. Kenyon would like to keep it as is, so we can take a vote. Board Member Todd?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman?
Aye.
Vice President Cirincione?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. We will show that it passed 5-0 to have McPherson and Jacobson, as our superintendent search firm. Okay. Moving on to 4.1, board comments on agenda topics and items for future consideration. Before we start, I would just like to remind everyone that all agenda items should be made, a request should be made at the public meeting or emailed to the board president and the superintendent as per policy. And then the items can then be placed on the Google Doc that's available for all board members to see and track. But please remember to request them in public or via email as well. But Now, does anybody have agenda item requests for tonight?
Madam President,
Go ahead.
I guess we need to get McPherson and Jacobson back so we can start this process.
Any other agenda items?
Madam President,
Go ahead.
I would like to see us have a policy on stipend pay. I don't know that we have that published. A little uncomfortable about the last presentation this tonight. So I think we need to develop a policy on how we handle stipends. Also, our assistant superintendent has worked a long time without any stipends. I think we need to address that with her as well if we're doing it for all the other positions.
All right. Anything else? All right. I have one. I think we need to discuss the vacant superintendent position currently and what our plans are moving forward for the remainder of the 25-26 school year. All right. If there are no other agenda items, we have an upcoming board meeting on Monday, December 8th, which is a public hearing and then a regular board meeting to follow. It is likely that we will have to have a special meeting about McPherson and Jacobson. So we'll try and contact them and then get it on the calendar as soon as possible. I know that Thanksgiving is coming up, so it's going to get a little dicey. But be on the lookout for an email asking for availability. But we will try to cut back on special meetings at last minutes when possible, but this one is kind of out of our hands at this point. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting at 7:36.